artists. Today we're going to be making a color wheel. Color wheels are fun to make because you get to do a little bit of color mixing. Now, I'm going to be using my marker painting technique. Some of you at home might be using your crayons. Whatever you're going to do, it's fine. Hello, artists. Okay, so I have a color wheel paper here. Now, if you're at home, you might not have one of these. So let me show you quick how to make a color wheel paper. What you would want is a blank piece of paper. One that is white. If it's a notebook paper, that's fine. And then what you would want to do is get something round. I have just a painter's palette here, but you could use a plate or something else. Hold it still, and then what you're going to do is you're going to draw around that with a black crayon. And then what you want to do is divide this drawing 3 lines. And the lines need to go right through the middle. So I'm going to put a little dot, kind of where I think the middle is, and I am going to draw. You know what might help me get my lines really straight is if I use something with a straight edge, like the marker or the edge of a box. So maybe I'll use this box, and you could use a ruler too. I'm going to draw a straight line. I'm going to slide it down so I get it to go right through the middle. And I am not, now normally you'd think you'd do it right through the middle here again, but this time we want to make it go kind of so it's dividing this into 6 pieces. So I'm going to just go a little bit more diagonal with my line, get it started. And if they don't end up exactly even, if you're doing this at home, it's really okay. The neat thing about this color wheel that we're going to make is eventually we're going to use it in a collage that we do, and we're going to turn this into an umbrella. So if you're at home, you would start this way, and instead of using you can use markers, but if you don't have markers, you can do this with crayon as well. But I am going to use 3 colors to make my color wheel. And if you look at a finished color wheel, I have a couple here. This one's done with crayon, and this one is done with the marker painting technique. You'll notice I have more than just these 3 colors. These 3 colors, yellow, red, and blue, are what we call primary colors. You might remember them from our Mondrian study. Primary colors are colors that you cannot make. You just have to have them. But the neat thing about primary colors is that when you mix them together, they make secondary colors, orange, purple, and green. But you have to do it in a very careful and special way. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So you will take your paper, either this paper or this paper. You'll notice this is kind of a different shape. If it's a circle, trust me, it will still work. Should I give you a sneak peek at what we're going to be doing? We're going to be changing our color wheel. I haven't quite finished mine, but just to give you an idea, I'm going to be making a little person, and we're going to make it a collage that we put on another piece of paper. So this part becomes the umbrella, which you can do with a circle as well. So I have my 3 colors. I'm going to start with the lightest of the primary colors, and that is yellow. So what I'm going to do with my yellow, put my marker cap on the back, and remember, you can do this with crayon too. I am going to take and I am going to color 3 places, and you're going to say, wait a minute, Miss Porter, why are you coloring in 3 places? In the color wheel, there's only 1 spot that's yellow. Well, here's the deal. We are going to mix yellow in a couple of these other places with another primary color, and it will make a new color. So we're going to find out what those are. So I've got yellow all the way filled. Make sure you're getting the whole thing like that, okay? Then you're going to take red, which I would say out of red and blue, red is the next lightest color, so I'm going to use red next. Now, in the 2 places right next to the yellow, I am going to do my red, not doing 3 this time, just doing 2. And if your marker's drying out, it still works, so don't worry about that. Just get as much of the ink filled in these 2 places right next to the yellow. Don't fill all 3. That's the tricky part. If you do all 3, you're not going to end up with one of those secondary colors. You'll end up with kind of a black color. So I will be mixing red and yellow in one of these places. You might know what red and yellow makes. We'll find out later. But the spot that's right next, that's yellow right next to my red, I am going to take my red. I'm not going to color the whole thing in. What I'm going to do is I am going to outline that space with the red. Just outline, nothing else. Okay, now I'm going to put my cap back on. And then I'm going to, this empty place, I'm going to color all blue. So I take my blue, it's the darkest one. So I do it last, and I fill in the blue area. Get all those little places. Okay, now, next to the blue, the yellow that's right next to the blue, I'm going to outline with blue. You might already start to see that it is kind of mixing those two colors. It doesn't look like blue anymore. It looks a little bit different. Now, the red space right next to the blue, you're going to outline as well with the blue. So if you look, we've got a plain blue, a plain yellow, a plain red, and then we have a place with yellow and red, yellow and blue, and red and blue. So we have all of those colors. Now before I start adding water to this, I am going to take my black crayon and I'm just going to make a line nice and dark with these two. Do not, please, if you don't have a black crayon, you could skip this part, but don't use a marker for that part because the black will smear. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my brush and I am just going to start with my lightest, which is yellow, and I'm just going to get that wet. And of course not much is happening except the fact that I have a little bit of yellow now on my brush. You probably can't see it with this paintbrush. I think I'm going to paint here next. I don't need to rinse my brush since yellow is already going to be a part of that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the tip of my brush. Pretend that your paintbrush is like a ballerina. It should be on its tippy toes when it is painting. Ballerinas paint or dance on their tippy toes. I'm going to move it in small little circles, and notice I'm not pushing down. You do not want your paintbrush scooting around on its bottom. A ballerina scooting around on their bottoms would not look good, and so neither would your painting. I'm going to add some more. Now don't worry if it stays yellow in the middle. I'll show you how you can fix that in just a minute. I'm going to keep moving this way. I'm going to go into the red now, just the plain red, and I am going to add water to that. Now what's happened when I touch the red on my brush, some of that red ink from the marker has now gotten onto my bristles of my brush. And so I'm going to take a little bit of that red and I think I'll add a little bit more. Be careful here. Don't push hard. You can actually tear your paper if you do this too much. But now I think we have a new color. That new color is orange. Now I'm going to rinse off my brush really good so that I don't get that red in my brush. All right, I'm going to move to the next one over. I'm just going to keep going in this order around my color wheel. I'm going to touch the little bit of blue that's around the edge and let that mix with the red that's in the middle. And you're saying, oh, not much is happening, Miss Porter. I'm disappointed. And I know, don't worry. Just like we did with the orange, we're going to go into the blue, get the blue all wet, and we're going to steal a little bit of this blue from the blue space and put it on the red. And you'll notice that it makes kind of this nice, dark, deep purple. And as this starts to dry, you'll notice it will change even more purple. What I kind of have right now is more of a red violet, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be a perfect purple. All right, now I'm going to rinse my brush off. And my last color is going to be the yellow and the blue together. Do you know what it's going to make? I bet you figured it out by now. It's going to make green. And so I'm going to touch my brush where the blue and the yellow make. Just you move little circles and be very gentle and let that mix. Now if you feel like you need a little bit more blue, go ahead and touch the blue over here. Be very gentle and then paint over it again. Now as this dries, you'll notice more of the blue makes green too as we get in there. All right, now we're going to let this dry. If you're at school, please make sure you have your name and your code. If you have time, you can write out the words red plus yellow makes, ooh, what does it make? Red and yellow make orange. Red and blue make purple or violet. Yellow and blue, what's in between them? Green. All right, when you have this done today, you need to let it dry, and that's all we're going to do for today. Next time I see you, we will start working on the sky for our color wheel collage, our rainy day collage. So save this paper. Don't lose it. We're going to need it for at least a couple more art times. If you're at home and you're doing this with crayons, you will want to do color over the whole thing when you're doing this. So when I did this, I did all yellow here first, and then I did red over all three of these spaces, and then I did blue over all three of those spaces. Remember, the primary colors stay by themselves, and then the color that it makes will be in between. So yellow is on this side, blue is on in between is the green. Yellow and red will make orange. Red and blue will make a purple. May not be a perfect purple or a perfect orange, but if you're close, that will be fine with me. I'd like to see some of your work when you've got it finished today, so send it to me on Seesaw, save your paper, and I hope you're having an art-tastic day. Until next time, goodbye.